Every Formula One race is over before the next one has even begun. The moment the checkered flag falls on Sunday afternoon, the teams have only a few days to disappear, travel hundreds or thousands of miles, and rebuild an entire Formula One operation somewhere else. The cars have to be stripped down, garages dismantled, and equipment packed. Hundreds of trucks have to cross borders, climb mountains, and somehow arrive at the next circuit on time, and if they don't make it, there is no race. Welcome to Simple Concepts Explained. Today we're pulling back the curtain on the hidden operation that keeps Formula One moving around the world, and why the real race isn't just between 20 drivers on Sunday. It's between hundreds of trucks and a clock that never stops. Because when you watch Formula One, you see 20 cars, but those cars are the smallest part of the problem. An F1 team doesn't arrive at a circuit with a couple of toolboxes and a spare engine. It arrives with an entire traveling factory. There are spare engines, gearboxes, suspension components, wings, floors, crash structures, and thousands of individual parts that might be needed at a moment's notice. Then there's everything that makes the cars and garage function: tire equipment, telemetry, radio systems, servers, computers, and power systems. Then you add the garage itself: the flooring, walls, lighting, workstations, pit wall equipment, storage systems. For a few days, a patch of concrete becomes a fully functioning engineering facility. Then it has to disappear again. But Formula One doesn't stop there. There are hospitality, catering, offices, and enormous motorhomes. Teams effectively build a temporary headquarters at every race, then tear it down again. Multiply that by 10 teams and add Formula One's own equipment, broadcast infrastructure, tire operations, and DHL's logistics equipment, and you're no longer moving a collection of racing cars. You're moving an entire traveling city. During the European season, much of that city moves by road, making the trucks the hidden backbone of Formula One. At the busiest points, hundreds of trucks can move the championship across Europe. These aren't ordinary deliveries. They're transporting an entire city that has to be assembled and demolished every few days. And the dismantling doesn't even wait for Sunday evening. Anything a team knows it won't need during the final stages of the Grand Prix can already be packed. Anything that can leave early does. Because the second that checkered flag falls, the real race begins. Within minutes, the garage begins disappearing. Equipment is disconnected, the garage dismantled, crates sealed, and trucks loaded. The first vehicles leave the circuit. The target isn't simply to arrive at the next race. The operation has to be rebuilt and functioning for the next session. That means the trucks aren't just carrying freight. They're carrying time. A missed departure can mean a missed border crossing, a missed tunnel slot, or hours lost to a breakdown. If that truck is carrying electrical infrastructure, the IT backbone, or part of the garage structure, an entire team could be unable to operate. That's why the logistics operation is built around redundancy. Critical equipment can leave first. Less important freight follows later. Different trucks can take different routes, with drivers working in shifts. The objective is simple: keep the freight moving for as much of the journey as regulations allow. Because the European calendar creates brutal transfers. A race finishes in one country on Sunday. A few days later, the entire operation has to be ready somewhere else. The journey might involve motorways, borders, and the Channel Tunnel, while dealing with traffic, weather, breakdowns, and driving hour limits. The trucks don't get to ignore reality just because Formula One is in a hurry. They have to work within it. A truck leaving Spielberg in Austria, for example, could be traveling close to 1,000 miles towards Britain. It might cross the Alps, reach the Channel Tunnel, and then continue towards the next circuit. If it misses the right tunnel slot or encounters a serious delay, the consequences can spread through the operation. The garage can't be finished until the equipment arrives, and the team can't race without it. The car isn't actually the beginning of the operation, it's the final link in the chain, and Europe is the easy part. Once Formula One leaves Europe, the trucks become one part of a much larger machine. For flyaway races, the sport uses a mixture of sea freight and air freight. Equipment moves around the world in advance, while essential race equipment travels by air. The trucks connect every stage: circuit to airport, airport to aircraft, aircraft to destination, destination airport back to circuit. The planes are impressive, but they only deliver freight. Someone still has to clear it through customs, load it onto trucks, and deliver every crate. And because Formula One is moving everyone's equipment simultaneously, the entire operation has to be synchronized. Nowhere is that more difficult than Monaco. Monaco is basically the worst possible place to operate a fleet of hundreds of trucks. There are narrow streets, dense traffic, tourists, and very little room to stage enormous vehicles. So the trucks can't simply arrive in one giant convoy. They wait outside the city, then they're called in when space becomes available. One truck enters, unloads, and leaves. Then another comes in. After the race, the process reverses, except now thousands of spectators are trying to leave at the same time. For logistics teams, Monaco isn't just a circuit. It's an urban freight problem solved in real time. It happens every year, but eventually, even a system this carefully planned runs into something it can't control. In 2022, Formula One experienced exactly that. Ahead of the Australian Grand Prix, some sea freight was delayed. This wasn't a box of merchandise or a few spare parts. The affected equipment included major structural components needed to build the team's operations. Suddenly, several teams faced the possibility that their equipment wouldn't arrive in time. Without that equipment, you potentially have no functioning garage at all. The normal plan was no longer going to work. DHL had to escalate. Emergency air freight was arranged. 3 dedicated cargo aircraft were used to move around 150 tons of freight. Equipment that normally traveled by sea suddenly had to fly around the world at enormous cost. But even then, the aircraft were only half the solution. Once the planes landed, customs had to be cleared, freight sorted, and trucks loaded before everything could move to the circuit. The trucks became the final bridge between the emergency and the race. That incident reveals something important about Formula One. The sport isn't fragile because the cars are complicated. It's fragile because the schedule is unforgiving. You can repair a wing, replace an engine, or rebuild a car overnight, but you can't create another 24 hours. That's why logistics has become one of the most important engineering problems in modern Formula One. The calendar itself is getting harder. More races, more flyaway events, more back-to-backs, less time between them. And all of that movement creates another problem: carbon emissions. Formula One has committed to reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2030. While people naturally think about engines and sustainable fuels, another source of emissions sits outside the circuit: the logistics network. Hundreds of trucks traveling thousands of kilometers. So the operation itself is changing. Some fleets are moving towards HVO renewable fuel, while routes and driver efficiency are being optimized. With hundreds of trucks, tiny inefficiencies become enormous. An extra 10 kilometers doesn't sound like much. But multiply that by 400 trucks and you've just created another 4,000 kilometers of driving. The sport may spend millions trying to find a tenth of a second on the racetrack, while logistics planners try to eliminate 10 unnecessary kilometers from a truck route. And at this scale, both matter. Because Formula One isn't just a competition between cars, it's a competition between systems. The teams have to design the fastest cars and make the best strategic decisions. But behind all of that is a logistics operation that has to deliver an entire temporary factory to the right place, at exactly the right time. And that changes how you should look at the calendar. When you see a race finish on Sunday, don't think of the championship as stopping. It's actually restarting. The garages disappear. The trucks move, freight travels, drivers change shifts, planes are loaded, customs paperwork starts. Somewhere hundreds of kilometers away, another circuit is waiting. By Wednesday, the trucks have to be there, the garage is built, the servers and electricity running, the cars assembled, and the pit wall connected, and the teams have to be ready to go racing again. All of that happens so seamlessly that the fans barely notice. And perhaps that's the greatest achievement of the entire system. When it works perfectly, you never see it. You just see 20 cars sitting on a grid on Sunday afternoon. Behind those 20 cars is an operation involving trucks, aircraft, ships, customs teams, mechanics, engineers, and logistics specialists, all working against the same enemy: time. And as Formula One continues adding races to an already brutal calendar, that race is only getting harder. The cars may be the stars, but the trucks are what make the show possible. So next time the lights go out and 20 Formula One cars launch towards the first corner, remember that the race you're watching actually began days earlier, on a motorway somewhere in Europe. Because before Formula One can race against itself, its logistics network has to race against the clock. Thanks for watching Simple Concepts Explained. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden systems, engineering, and economics behind the things you see every day. And I'll see you in the next one.